We have a great trio lined up for you today with subject matter expertise that ranges from practitioner to provider in the world of industrial IoT. We're pleased to welcome Brian O'Flaherty-Wills, who is the head of go-to-market for industrial IoT at AWS, and our customer Amir Pastar, who's the head of intelligent connected solutions for Henny Penny. And rounding out the panel is your host, Adrian Valenzuela, who's a senior solutions specialist for Cumulocity IoT. And with that, I leave you in very well-equipped hands. Adrian, you may begin.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I really appreciate you framing up the conversation. So I am so excited to talk to everyone today. We'll be going through a couple of really interesting data points based on a lot of industry experts from both myself, Brian, and Amir, talking about trends we've seen in the industry, how customers typically scale, and a really interesting case study from something that I guarantee everyone, especially in America, has experienced through Henny Penny's connected fryers. So to be real specific about our agenda, we're going to be spending a few minutes on some of the trends that we've been seeing in the industry, specifically around IoT. Brian will lead us through a discussion on some of the high-level capabilities of AWS and some of the trends he's been seeing on customers being able to adopt AWS scale services at scale. And as I mentioned earlier, going into a really interesting case study on the connected kitchen. These are industrial connected kitchens, not something in the consumer use cases. After that, your feedback on the Q&A, the chat panel will be incredibly interesting because we're going to break the session down into a small panel discussion. So if you have any questions or insights you're looking for from our panelists today, that would be the right time for us to go into that discussion. So without further ado, let me jump ahead into the Cumulocity IoT perspective, some of the trends that we've been seeing in the IoT market that has been driving adoption of connected and smart connectivity solutions in the industry overall. So if you're here, you have probably heard of the Cumulocity IoT platform, and we focus heavily on both smart connected equipment makers and the operators of that connected equipment. It should go without saying that we see smart connected products are on the rise, both adoption and the development of them. One of the most important segments for us here at Cumulocity are the manufacturers of that industrial equipment and machinery who want to offer smart connected products. You can see some very typical examples from our customer base. They could be all over the place, from connected products, connected painting robots like Dur. We have hundreds of thousands of elevators connected from vendors like Schindler, high-end excavators and heavy equipment, wind turbines from companies like Enercon, or even medical equipment from vendors like Hillrom. You can see that this is a very wide range of customer examples all over the world from a very disparate range of industry verticals. They all offer very high quality products with a global customer base and with very little in commonality in terms of what they actually build. But one of the interesting things is that they all have very similar challenges from their go-to-market perspective in terms of the capabilities of those products. They all understand that their hardware business is quickly getting commoditized. So they've needed to innovate through the adoption and rollout of digital software services. Secondly, besides for the very typical use case and for optimizing for operational efficiencies, more customers are demanding for usage and outcome-based services of their offerings. One really specific example that is probably one of the more common conversations I have nowadays is around smart field services. A very common pain point for all of these vendors is supporting and maintaining those equipments out in the field. This would typically require sending a man in a van on site to update or debug those applications. Through the magic of IoT, we're trying to see more and more adoption to be able to handle that remotely. And thirdly, due to the decline in hardware asset margins, as well as increases annual sales volumes, we see a growing change in aftermarket businesses that's becoming highly attractive, and IoT is the enabler to create new services and revenue streams for these customers. One of the trends that we love to talk about is actually coming from one of the largest analyst firms out there, which is Gartner. We think this perfectly captures the state of the industrial IoT market. While this trend applies to nearly all new technologies, where there's initially a technology trigger, there's increased attention to that technology. What they like to call it the peak of inflated expectations. There's a natural decline as the initial hype cycle starts to decline. Then we get to a point of what they like to call the slope of enlightenment, as those applications go into a steady state adoption. This is where I think we are in the IoT market. Peak IoT in terms of industry buzz probably peaked around the 2017, 2018 timeframe, where we saw IoT really being a novelty and being adopted by a whole bunch of new end equipment, whether the business case was there or not. That decline has already happened, and now we're in a very stable point where only the best platform providers have remained and created heavily optimized solutions to solve real world use cases. Another analyst firm, IoT Analytics, has actually published a report last year that they're talking about how the buy and integrate approach is gaining traction with device makers. Specifically for connected product makers, they have noticed a trend that they prefer to have a buy approach where the building approach is commonly available for connected operators. As we've talked about through a number of times, we actually choose to not view this as a buy versus build. We actually think this is a buy and build. So combinations of the solution could be run on an existing platform, and then you only have to focus on building the absolute tip of the spear of your application, which is your differentiated secret sauce. Overall, I still think even though the IoT platform market has reached a very stable point, device makers, device operators, much like yourselves, are still relatively early in their design cycle. IoT Analytics, the firm, has estimated that only 50% of device product strategies have been fully implemented. So I think most of those customers are still in that early adopter, early majority phase. Interestingly, a lot of those customers, even the people that I talk to on a near daily basis, are still trying to operate a home-built DIY IoT platform. And many of those customers are coming to folks like ourselves or AWS who are trying to replace that home-built solution. Interestingly, a lot of people, maybe even folks on this call, have not fully defined their IoT strategy. So this is where we can provide a lot of value to you guys in both providing a platform, but is also experience on how typical deployments are brought to market. So if we zoom out a little bit and don't talk about the specifics about an individual application space, we see the industry moving through a typical maturity curve. Based on hundreds of successful projects with equipment makers, we're in an interesting position that we understand the digital transformation journey that is required, and we commonly act as trusted advisors for customers like yourselves on that path. We actually think the majority of our customers are still in what we call phase one of an IoT maturity. This is typically in the remote monitoring use case. This is typically very basic command and control that gives customers insights into how that equipment's being used, turning it off and on, really basic functionality. While that is the majority of the use case, customers are still seeing value in this. A very typical conversation we have is that customers tell us that there's by using a platform like Cumulocity, that they're seeing 75% cost reductions in operating an IoT model using a platform like ourselves. Payback periods for this kind of investment is typically less than a year. So there's very clear value for the customer for using a platform like us. Where I think there's more value, but yes, a little bit more complexity, is what we call phase two, where they have now optimizing their business models and have moved beyond just monitoring the asset to something like smart field services or performance management. This is about optimizing existing business models by leveraging IoT. In this phase, the customer of the equipment maker is typically focusing on trying to reduce their field service costs, trying to reduce on-site visits, and trying to optimize their performance or failure analysis or preventing failure analysis. This is where the return on investment increases dramatically. And we've seen ROI customers exceeding 300% or reducing unplanned maintenance as much as 30 to 40%. For those that are have monetized these services for support or for warranties, there's typically a 60-ish% attach rate for these over the course of 3 years. So there is a very quick payback cycle when customers move here. And what I would call the absolute pinnacle of IoT use cases is what we call the phase 3, which is transitioning the business model to entirely equipment as a service. In full disclosure, I would estimate that roughly a single-digit % of our customer base has transitioned the business model to full equipment as a service. However, those that have seen that they've seen their customer adoption, their win rates exceeding 50%, and their revenue has increased over 100%. This dramatically changes the business model to an outcome-based business model that goes far beyond just the underlying technology. So we've seen this across the board, and hopefully I'd love to hear your comments and the questions on where your application might fall in this continuum. So you might be asking for some context, like what makes us unique to giving us this perspective on the IoT market? Well, again, leveraging some insights from analysts from over at Gartner, they very recently published their 2024 Magic Quadrant for industrial IoT platforms that segments out the major players in the industrial IoT market and breaks them out into a couple of different segments. I'm very happy to say that on this call, we have 2 of the 3 players that Gartner has qualified as leaders for industrial IoT. That, of course, is Cumulocity platform and the AWS platform. So you might be thinking, why are 2 of the players who are deemed leaders on the same call? Shouldn't they be competitors? That's actually fundamentally not true. And we are actually partners that heavily rely on each other to help customers deploy IoT applications. And we'll go into a little bit more detail on how our partnership works and how customers typically leverage both sets of platforms. But interestingly, how did Gartner define us as leaders? Well, very broadly, they look at two things that they thought was interesting. One is our ability to execute and the completeness of the vision. This was measured in the way that we are results oriented, that we have the ability to influence the market direction, and that we have the capability to grow with our customers with a large global footprint. Again, this is Gartner's analysis, not ours. This is actually the 3rd year running that Software AG's Cumulocity IoT platform was named a leader. Between the combination of AWS and Cumulocity, we have a really unique value proposition that we have cloud native architectures that could run in the cloud or connect to public infrastructures, or in the case of Cumulocity, we can even run in private on-prem instances, which could help customers ease their scaling. AWS, of course, has the massive advantage of providing very large scales with a very large partner network, including Software AG, to provide a delivery model that works very closely with the end customer's needs, with a very wide range of system integrators at very large scale. So we take a quick look at Cumulocity IoT's product strategy. It's really centered around this buy and build component. So working with vendors like AWS is key component of how we work with customers to bring IoT solutions to market. We are very commonly asked to replace a homegrown solution or other IoT platforms that just aren't meeting the customer's requirements. Common pain points could be anything from there's too many customizations, the cost could be too high, or the single most common reason customers come to us is that their current solution doesn't scale. Scale is commonly felt in it becomes too slow to get data, onboarding devices at large numbers becomes very difficult, but that scale problem is hands down the most common reason customers come to us when they have an existing platform. Well, why is that? Well, it's actually pretty common that many companies who are builders, they have engineering resources on team on in staff, would try to build out their solution completely from scratch. IoT sounds easy, right? Well, while they go through the POC phase, or they have pilots that seem to be successful initially, many of those projects start to fail when enterprise level requirements come into play. This goes back to the scalability comment I made earlier. This could be about security, or the fact that most heterogeneous industrial IoT solutions have a lot of different device types, a lot of different protocols, a lot of different standards that have to be accounted for. Especially as that IoT platform starts to get bigger within the customer's applications, a lot of our customers start to realize that that IoT platform is actually a product in and of itself. They need to maintain the life cycle of that. They need to support it. They need to maintain that. All of the typically requires more and more resources from their internal team, more people. And so that total cost of ownership starts to increase dramatically as their device count increases and the usage goes up. With a buy and build strategy with Cumulocity plus AWS, customers can benefit from leveraging a proven industrial IoT platform. That's the buy part. And they can focus on their development efforts on purely their differentiation for your specific use case. That would be the build part. So we believe, and we have seen this come true time and time again, that time to market for new solutions goes down dramatically, and more importantly, the total cost of ownership for this buy and build approach is dramatically lower than trying to build it by itself. We have lots of customer case studies that prove this, but this even comes from a North American, or actually a worldwide chemical manufacturing company, Solenis, that believes that by leveraging a platform like Cumulocity and leveraging public cloud infrastructure, allowed them to bring their solution to market out twice as fast as they would when they did it themselves. So working on a build and buy strategy with two of the leaders in IoT, AWS and Cumulocity, is actually easier than it might sound. So we've actually created a number of assets to help customers get started. This includes both commercial packages like solutions and marketplace listings on the AWS website. This should make it easy to transact directly through AWS. We also have technical assets like a joint white paper that we call IoT that Scales. This includes detailed descriptions and joint architectures on how to build a solution leveraging both AWS and Cumulocity IoT. So the architecture we've shown here is actually a very typical architecture that comes directly from the white paper. The orange boxes would be functionality running directly on AWS, and the teal boxes is what would be running on Cumulocity. In this example, which is a representative example of a factory automation use case that's maybe running some sort of digital twin and video analytics, the application might rely on Cumulocity for device management, storage, distribution of data for kind of short-term data storage, messaging and notifications, and visualization of streaming analytics in an application that we call the IoT cockpit. In this same example, AWS would be used to render a 3D scene, some video streaming, machine learning development and execution, long-term data storage, and querying in the data lake, and integration to existing business intelligence applications that would be running on AWS natively. And of course, you could be leveraging the built-in and identity management from AWS. You will find the white paper and documents tab is also available publicly if you just Google AWS and IoT white paper. And so we have a whole bunch of resources from our side, but I think getting a sense from what AWS can provide directly from Brian might be more interesting for you all.
Thanks, Adrian. Hello, everyone. Delighted to be here today to talk to you a little bit about this partnership. So I'm Brian O'Flaherty-Wills. I run a worldwide go-to-market for industrial IoT at AWS. And let me just spend a couple of minutes situating that. So when we talk about IoT broadly at Amazon Web Services, we're talking the full gamut of IoT applications. So a lot of everyday people would associate IoT, of course, with smart home devices, vacuum cleaners, smart thermostats, you name it. And we're definitely in that business. In fact, we're the biggest platform in that business. Of course, the vehicles we drive are all now data centers on wheels, and there's a lot of data coming from those particular assets, and that's a big part of our business as well. But the business that excites me most is the industrial space, and the reason it excites me most is because this is where the biggest challenges and the biggest, ultimately, return for our customers lies. And when we talk about industrial, we're really talking about two things. We're talking about connecting industrial production assets at large, so AKA the smart factory, and looking at ways of optimizing the production of any kind of material, discrete or process. We're also then looking at the second half of industrial IoT, which is the smart industrial equipment, and that's where this conversation today is situated. The two are obviously related, but they're different in the sense that when we talk to our smart factory customers, we're talking about really a lot of brownfield assets and really kind of connecting IoT with a lot of different data sources. When we're talking to our smart industrial equipment vendors, they're really looking to go on a journey more like this one on the slide, which is provide more value to their end customers. And the real importance here is that equipment makers, and Adrian alluded to this, need to be thinking about bringing more value to their customers by evolving towards a machine as a service model. We're seeing this trend across industry. We're seeing more and more customers expect more out of their vendors, expect more visibility, expect better service levels, and ultimately expect to be able to offload CapEx onto OpEx. And that's only possible by getting the connectivity right in the first place and getting the fundamental IoT building blocks right in the first place, which is why we're having this conversation. So, at AWS, my job is to help customers make choices about how to progress along that path. And our strategy is very rooted in our technology, but also our partnerships. And Cumulocity is a very key partner for us in this journey of smart industrial equipment. So why is it that I feel very confident when I'm speaking with customers and uncovering their needs, recommending a path with Cumulocity IoT? Well, there's really three things on this. So number one, first and foremost, just the completeness of the Cumulocity platform. I'm not here to sell you on Cumulocity. That was Adrian's job, but I think he did a pretty good overview of kind of showing the different components of what we have to think about with IoT. And the real key takeaway is it's more than just the connectivity itself. It's the platformization around it, it's the capabilities around it that extend that data from the physical world into the data lake, into the machine learning training, into all these other applications where we actually create value. That's the really key thing that where we see a lot of value in Cumulocity's end-to-end platform. So that's one. The second is that we're talking about global players here. And this is really important in the context. Most industrial equipment manufacturers have a high degree of specialization and a high presence across the globe. So you need to be thinking about partnering with providers that can actually provide that global level of high touch support, customization, We know this is a business where you have to get dirt under your fingernails, and you need partners who are going to be there to support you no matter where you are. The third, and kind of the one that's relevant in terms of partnership, is that we have a proven path with Cumulocity to bringing data into where it needs to be, into AWS. And our customers look to Cumulocity to actually bring data from their physical assets into AWS, where they've got other sets of data on orders, data on maintenance records, data on product design, and bringing that together to really inform better decisions across the life cycle. So that proven integration is there with Cumulocity. And that's very important to be actually able to get value out of this data. Let me give you one example of this, and then I'm going to hand it over to Amir, who's actually going to elaborate on his example. But the example we have here is Flexco. Part of what I love about IoT is learning about applications that I didn't know of before, and Flexco is one of those. So we're talking here about a world leader in monitoring, cleaning, and maintenance of large-scale conveyor equipment. So visualize a large earth-moving machinery in an open pit mine, a massive conveyor belt bringing raw ore and going through the process of extracting that and into a upstream processing and refining. This is where Flexco shines, because they provide the equipment to actually maintain these critical assets. And of course, one of these conveyors goes down, production stops. So what Flexco has actually developed is a really neat aftermarket solution that allows their customers to inspect and make decisions about their conveyor cleaning, their conveyor monitoring equipment. Really, really interesting use case. And the business impacts have been great here. We've got customers improving their top line by $1 million a year just by the incremental production improvements. We've also got a great anecdote about a customer who's been able to learn through the Flexco device and through the Flexco solution. They've been learning what kind of problems they've been getting with rocks stuck in their conveyor equipment. So they've been actually able to observe that certain data patterns coming in the application are highly correlated with rocks getting stuck in the conveyor, and that causes downtime that can also rip the conveyor belt. So they've been able to actually take a much more proactive approach, taking a planned downtime approach, removing these rocks from the conveyor, as opposed to keeping it running and then resulting in unplanned downtime, which is orders of magnitude more costly. Just one of these great examples of bringing data. So this whole solution was built through a partnership between Cumulocity, helping the customer to actually acquire the data, manage the devices, do all the undifferentiated heavy lifting around the IoT, and then bringing that data into a data lake in AWS, where the customer is actually able to analyze and create value from that data. So with that, I want to bring it over to Amir, who's going to double click on another fantastic example here with Henny Penny.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. So first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm going to talk about the specific use case we have at Henny Penny for connected equipment. But before we start, a little bit about Henny Penny. I'm not sure you know Henny Penny, but I'm pretty sure you know our customers. So, and some of you on a daily basis, you are getting your breakfast, dinner, a lunch from big QSR brands, just big name globally. And that's our install base. We are working with the high traffic, high volume quick serve restaurants. Although we have some small chains, but mostly you will see in the back of their kitchen, you will see our fryers, our holding cabinets over there to serve their customers. We started in 1957, and as I'm saying, you have seen the products that people that are cooking in our equipment, from the chicken, from the fries, and everything. Before jumping to the technical part of it, or build versus buy, I want to lay out why we are connecting our equipment. And I really love the concept of the golden circle by Simon Sinek. In case you haven't read the book Start With Why, I highly recommend it. Actually, go and get it. This is a really great book to read. But anyway, the why for my team, Intelligent Connected Solution at Henny Penny, to connect our equipment is not connectivity. If you ask Adrian or Brian, what is your why at AWS or Cumulocity, it's going to be different from my why. But my why is to lower the equipment cost of ownership for my customers, the big customers. And in order to lower the cost of ownership, there's several factors that it's going to help me how to do it. How to do it is to improve their operation, to improve their efficiency in the restaurants. And at the end of the day, it's going to lead them to have a better uptime with their machine. By uptime, I mean, if you go to a restaurant, quick serve restaurant that is famous for their crispy chicken, or for to a restaurant that they are famous for their fries, you expect to get the fries. There is no other way. So basically, if their fries station or chicken fryer is down, basically they have to close the door. They have to go. That is where we are. Our equipment should be 100%. Should have 100% uptime, and that is why we are connecting to the internet to have a better uptime. Under the hood, what's going on? We collect the data. We connect them, we collect the data, we compute the data, and we share this data with our customers in a way they want it. And I would love to talk about basically why we are collecting this data. Really basic way from the asset management. Definitely our customers, they want to know where is the equipment, what is the warranty status, if there is any service call waiting for this machine. This is the asset management part. The other part is operational improvement. We are doing it to help our customers to better manage their operation. And I can give you a first-hand experience. The very first month I joined Henny Penny, less than 2 years ago, I asked that I need to work in one of these quick serve restaurants for a day. And I actually work as operator in front of the fries station to understand how people are using our equipment. And this equipment, if you haven't seen it, they have a 3 or 4 vats basically, and because of the redundancy, and sometimes one of them is busy, you want to use the other one. After a few hours, I realized I'm just using the left one, and basically the other 2-3 vats, they are at the cook temperature, but I'm not really using it. And the root cause of it, I'm left-handed basically. So it was easier for me to handle the basket from the freezer to the fryer. And that was the root cause of basically wasting the oil, wasting the energy in other vats. That's what I'm talking about, the operational improvement. Maintenance improvement is basically, as I said, these are the high traffic restaurants. There should not be any downtime. If there is an error code with the machine, if there is any issue, we can predict from the machine and let the service team know. They can go in a time that is not a rush hour for them. Let's say during midnight or early in the morning. So basically they can fix the issue before the rush hour, and everything is good to go. The other big factor in the quick serve restaurant, these businesses are really marginal businesses. Oil cost, energy cost, they're big factors. If we can improve their oil usage, their energy usage, that's a big factor for them. And at the end of the day, as we connect the equipment, cybersecurity and network security is a big factor also we need to consider. Moving forward, about what we are doing under the hood, basically you see like a fryer, but this is not the only product line we are connecting. Actually, we have a different ones, but just for this conversation, I just show one of them. We connect them through cellular Wi-Fi. We collect the data in a data lake that we have. This is the part Cumulocity, AWS, and platform providers, they're helping us a lot, because our business is not connectivity. Our business is not collecting data. Our business is to compute what we are learning from the data, the KPIs we need to share with our customers, and share it in a way they need to see. So I started this journey a long time ago, actually, more than 15 years, and I've seen different trends in the IoT industry. As I started, connectivity by itself was a big thing. Now everything is connected. So raw data, sharing a raw data with my customer is not going to solve any problem. Our store manager or owner operators at the restaurant, they have zero time to go in a dashboard, look at what's going on. So what they need to see if everything is okay, like an engine light in your car, everything is fine or not. If not, can I send or dispatch a technician to go and fix it? So raw data is the very first layer I can share with them. The next layer is the AI analysis. On top of the raw data, we are processing the KPIs. So with the color-coded KPIs, I can tell people your oil usage is good or bad. Your energy usage is good, but you're bad. The health of the machine is good or bad. And this is not the stopping point for us. On top of that, with the help of all these LLM models around us, we are using every day, we are communicating in a best and easy way with our customers. So instead of them or asking them even to go and look at the KPIs, in 2 sentences, I can send them, okay, hi, Amir, this is your restaurant. This is the KPIs. You can improve it by doing this. Really simple way communicating with them. And on the right side, the action, as you can see, we can connect to the cloud-to-cloud communication. We can have a text message. We can have a report monthly, daily. We can have a platform like a front end to share the data with them. So, as I said, the business for Henny Penny is not connecting the device. At the end of the day, is to improve the operation they have in the field, to improve their uptime by predicting any issues with the machine. We have a bunch of sensors in the machine. We have a different data points coming from the machine, and we have a machine learning unit actually. So by analyzing those data, we can improve the situation, we can predict, and we can prescribe if they need to do something. So at the end of the day, the takeaway from these few slides is, and hopefully it's going to be helpful for you, is once you are deciding about buy versus build, think about what is your business. So if I run Amazon, yes, I'm going to think about running on my own platform. If I'm running the Henny Penny, no, probably I'm going to look at the providers that can help me to jumpstart my business, to basically invent and be creative on the part I need to be, not just on connectivity part. So work with the my suggestion, work with the platform providers. They're going to jumpstart your situation. Get the help from the other parties, like other platform that they can get integrated to your system. And once you are connected, use the actionable insight. Basically, it's not just being a gimmicky. It's basically sharing the meaningful insight with your customer in a way they need to see it. A store manager, in my case, need to see a text message. They don't care about the login in the dashboard. Owner operators, different story. So share the information in a way they need to see it. And crawl, walk, run strategy. Basically, in our case, we have started with the front end that came off the shelf with the Cumulocity platform, but this is a plug and play dashboard that was easy enough for my team in a month to go live with everything. But it was not the stopping point for us. It has its own pros and cons. So in our case, we need more customization. So at the beginning, we start with the front end from Cumulocity. Then we said that we're going to have our own front end talk to Cumulocity backend. So this platform is a mix and match. I'm not saying go 100% with one platform because, and that was something actually Cumulocity even suggested to us. On your front end, have your own front end. On the backend, use our backend. So by using Cumulocity front end or similar case, you are going to be able to try and jumpstart the journey, learn from your customers. You don't need to spend $500,000 and then learn from your customers. You can do the A/B testing really quickly, and you can then develop your front end based on your learning. So hopefully that use case was helpful for you to understand why we're connecting our devices. And in case you want to have a more detailed discussion, as I said, my name is Amir Pastor. I'm running the Intelligent Connectors department at Henny Penny. And I would love to actually get connected with you. I have my own podcast. If you want to listen to it, please subscribe. If you want to be a guest on my podcast, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And before Henny Penny, I work in the consumer electronic sector as well with Toshiba, Midea, Beckett, Eureka, and Brian, you already mentioned vacuum cleaner, connected refrigerator, those kind of stuff. But the main meat with the connectivity, I can tell you, once we switch to industrial application, that is a part in the connectivity, and the machine learning is going to shine because of all the pain points we are facing in this industry. Thank you.
That was great, Amir. That was really interesting how you displayed that. As someone who has eaten fast food but never thought about how it works on the back end, that was incredibly interesting. I just want to follow up on a couple of things that you said that I want to make sure I heard that right. I think I heard you say that you went from idea to maybe a proof of concept in a month. Can you elaborate on that, or can you tell us how long it took you to implement that solution?
So the front end side, specifically the front end, the proof of concept, because once we start this journey, we wanted to showcase the back end side was something technically we understand it, but the front end, once I sit in front of our customers, they want to see what kind of KPIs we can see. So instead of developing everything from ground up and from scratch, like React or Angular framework, basically, we said that by using the Cumulocity backend, it comes with the front end, basically, and we can use this front end. Although it's a plug and play, although there's particular modules and cards and we can use, it's not exactly what we want, but it's going to jump and start our situation to kind of learn. So I shared with you a couple of KPIs, like oil KPI, energy KPIs. We had a hypothesis about them, but without showing them to actual customers and asking them, okay, is this exactly what you want? So that was our A/B testing, and this front end helped us a lot to do this A/B testing right away without spending a lot of money and then go back and tweak the platform.
Got it. That's I'm glad that helped out for you guys. Well, let's get down to brass tacks. Since you mentioned it saved you a bunch of money, could you estimate the budget that you guys needed to go from a non-connected product portfolio to a connected version?
Is the question for me?
Yeah.
Without getting to the actual number, but I can tell you cost is a big driver, definitely, for all the companies. And it's a big difference between basically buying or building. But the other factor is not just the cost, it's a time. It's a team you need to put in place basically to do all that. Because once you start this connectivity journey, from the technical standpoint, we just see the development part. This is the very first part. Then there is a training for our team, for the external team. Then there is a maintenance on that. So I rather go to the next levels as soon as possible, instead of basically spending a lot of time and budget on just connecting and building the wheel and reinventing the wheel. So and as I said, this is my business on the other side.
Got it. In that case, we talked, both Brian and I talked about it early on, about how there's a trend to move to equipment as a service. Were you guys able to turn your IoT platform from a cost center to something more like a profit center? Did you monetize those solutions for your end customer?
That's what's becoming actually for us. So basically, being a cost center, it's a case for most connected companies, but it's not a sustainable solution, because at the end of the day, we need to maintain this solution. And for us, the uptime, oil saving, energy saving, those kind of efficiency and improving the operation, these are the things we are helping our customers. And once we help our customers, we can have a different service models. We can have a different, basically, added values that is going to help us to have a revenue model on top of basically just selling the hardware. And this is a trend I see. I see in different industries, basically becoming, as Brian, you mentioned, that becoming the machine or hardware as a service, and everyone is going toward that kind of make it like a Uber type things. I'm not really sure how soon this commercial kitchen equipment industry is going to get to that point, but I see this in a lot of industries.
One more thing that I need to double click on, because this is completely new to me. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how the connected data was able to save cost on the oil savings itself? Does that mean you could change it more frequently or less frequent? Explain a little bit more
Very
how
good question,
that works.
actually. So the oil in the commercial kitchen actually process, it's going to sit in the vat. They're going to start cooking with this oil, and it depends the temperature you are keeping this oil and how long you are keeping this oil, and if the oil is exposed to the outside air. So as I said, for example, if you keep using the first vat and not using the other vat, it means that you're not actually cooking. There is no outcome of the other two vats, but you are keeping the temperature high enough to kind of basically lower and reduce the life of the oil. That is one part. The other part is we have a system in our fryers that does the express filter. So every certain number of the cooks, there is a system that basically pass the oil through the filter and push it back to the machine. So that filter tries to helps to reduce the crumbs and dirt from the oil, and once the oil goes back to the vat, it's a clean oil. Some restaurant in rush hour, they're not doing that because this process takes 3-4 minutes to do, and once they're in rush hour, they're not doing that. Once we monitor it and we can see if they're not doing it, they're going to kill the oil eventually. So operational wise and efficiency wise, we can help them see the situation and basically keep the oil longer by basically not reducing the oil, the food quality, because that is red line, and we have to make sure if we keep the oil longer in the product, the quality of the product is going to stay same, or even if we improve it, because we're helping them to see how many filters they have on a daily basis. If we can show them actually how long they're using each vat at what temperature.
I won't put you on the spot here, Amir, but offline I'll ask you which restaurant changes their oils most frequently.
And I can tell you actually, again, not sharing a name, we have a lot of connected restaurants, and sometimes if I go there and basically I see the product is good or not, I go back to my office, I check how often they're changing the oil. So
that's fantastic. Let me shift gears a little bit. A question for both you, Amir, and for Brian. We can't listen to the mainstream news or the industry news without hearing some discussion about AI. Brian, I'd love to hear your take, and also Amir, what you're seeing, what trends you're seeing with AI in IoT, and also Amir, how you're seeing that potentially being adopted in the fryers themselves.
Sure, Adrian, why don't I start? So yeah, there's a lot to say about this topic, but maybe just to break it down a little bit, we should talk about AI broadly, but then we should talk specifically about generative AI, which is obviously, going back to your point about the headlines. So I think AI, broadly defined as machine learning, is pretty well established in how AI and IoT work together. The most established use case is being able to use condition monitoring to help to train anomaly detection in an ML model, to be able to then trigger some sort of predictive insight that allows you to schedule maintenance and overcome issues before they occur. So predictive maintenance, bringing useful life. This is the stuff of traditional ML, and still, to your point earlier, Adrian, lots and lots of upside value that our customers are experiencing with this as they get better and better at bringing the data into AWS. They get better at actually being able to use this to train ML models. But I think the heart of the question is Gen AI and how that's kind of changing the game. And I think there's we think of two big buckets. The first is kind of obvious but easily overlooked, which is generative AI. One of the best things about generative AI is helping build solutions in general. Any developer who's working with Gen AI now knows that. But for IoT especially, this is really, really helpful for two reasons. One, in IoT, we face a lot of challenges sort of different hardware layers, different abstractions, different proto boards, different types of sensors that require a lot of kind of almost rote customization. So one thing Gen AI is really good at is, hey, write this, redo this for, Intel Edison instead of Raspberry Pi, just to throw out an idea. And so we see that as being really useful. We see also Gen AI as being really useful at a thorny problem I'm sure Amir has come up against. In IoT, you often have to simulate test data, because if you want to test how your system behaves when a fryer, goes over temperature alarm, if you're trying to do that in the real world, that's actually pretty costly, right? So we want to do that in a simulated way. So the first bucket of Gen AI is the development cycle. The second bucket, which is kind of the sexy one that we all think about, is really powerful. In Amir already alluded to it. How do we create better actionable insights for our customers? I.e., how do we turn data into something that we can understand at the time we need it in the way we want to consume it, and then bring action out of that? So we're getting a lot of really interesting, POCs going with customers on using generative AI chatbots, synthesizing alarm data and condition monitoring and things like that from IoT, but also things like standard operating procedures and instruction manuals. So imagine, for example, we have an over temperature alarm or something like that in a Henny Penny fryer, and we bring up that data, and then we bring up, here's the SOP. What do you want to do next? That kind of interface, just super, super powerful. So those are just a few of the ways that I think we're going to see a really big impact of it, and a continued sort of synthesis of Gen AI or AI broadly in IoT.
Yep. And actually,
what about you? Does any of this make sense to you?
No, definitely, yeah. I'm 100% with you on the on all you mentioned basically, and that was really interesting. You mentioned about the technical part. Once you're in the POC phase and you're developing, definitely Gen AI is going to help you to jumpstart the process, and simulating the or faking the connected device. That is exactly how it's going to help the situation. I really like it. The other side, the customer's facing side, as you mentioned, the predictive maintenance is something everyone is working on. So I don't need to elaborate more on that. That's the same thing for us as well. Definitely, as I mentioned, because of the high traffic, high volume restaurants we are serving, prediction and being prescriptive is they are basically a requirement for us. On the other side, Gen AI, as you mentioned, think about the scenario that we are dealing with different people with a different background, different language they're speaking with. So how we want to help them understand, and considering they don't have time to basically go through the KPIs and the dashboard. So how we help them understand the situation they are in, and how we help them to improve that situation is the deal. Actually, Gen AI is helping us a lot. And with the expansion of all these models, we know that's going to the direction that I see a really shiny future for the IoT.
Cool. Adrian, how about you?
Honestly, I can echo both of what you say. I still see the vast majority of the use cases I see are in what is now a very well-established industry of predictive maintenance. I've seen that shift over to predictive analytics or failure analysis, but it's honestly variations of that earlier use case, where from our side as a solution provider, we're starting to see more and more Gen AI for application development, which is something that definitely did not exist a year ago, where customers are able to create, especially kind of the mobile side or the web UI component, using generative AI so fewer designers are actually necessary for the development of the user experience. So that's definitely not something I saw a year ago. The use case that you talk about using Gen AI for test data development is definitely something I've started to see a tiny bit, but I guarantee I'm going to see more and more of that moving forward. And I will ask one last question, hopefully not limited to AI. What's next? What's next for both of you guys?
Brian, do you want to start?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I'll be brief because really what's next for us is really all about what's next for our customers. I mean, maybe the way I would answer that is we can't predict the future. We know the things that won't change. Security will never diminish as a priority for IoT. We will never diminish our priority on building go-to-market strategies with partners and making sure that we do the right thing for the customer, recommending the right solution, and the right combination of partners, build and buy, for our customers. And in terms of IoT, again, I think we are in the industrial space, still just getting started, and still have incredible amounts of value to accrue, with the likes of Gen AI, also with the likes of bringing more and more video type use cases into the industrial sphere, and just getting much better at bringing more value from data contextualization at the edge, and a lot of things like that. So yeah, I mean, we're really excited to be in this space and to be working with these great partners.
Great.
How about you?
For us is adding more product lines. First of all, number one is adding more product lines to the intelligent connected solution portfolio that we have. We have started with the few. Now we have a goal to connect 100% of our equipment, even the legacy products, to our cloud system. That's number one. I like your comment, Brian, about the security and cybersecurity. That's also a big thing for us. As I see a trend actually in some of the companies and industry I've worked for and we are dealing with, still cybersecurity everyone is talking about. Still there is a requirement out there, but not necessarily everyone is basically working on it and actively doing assessment, actively doing pen testing. This is big for us because we want to make sure once we get connected, we connect to the secure way, and we are not basically adding a chance for customers to go down because of any issue with the cybersecurity. That's also a big priority for us. And once we connect more portfolio, we want to learn more and we want to enhance our ML models basically with the bigger install base to help our customers in a better way.
Perfect. Well, that's it. We're out of time. Amir, Brian, thank you so much for your perspectives and your feedback. I think it was a great discussion. For everyone listening, please follow us on LinkedIn or reach out directly if you have any questions. We'd love to chat. And thank you and have a great day.